And welcome to the G Woman Media Voices of Influence series, where we spotlight women whose voices, work, and impact are shaping the future. My name is Frankie Picasso, and today we are joined by Patty Farmer, the only woman that I know who can turn a coffee chat into a joint venture before the latte cools. Patty Farmer is a marketing, media, and business development leader who's known for building high trust communities and relationships. She drives growth ecosystems. Patty Farmer is a woman of influence. And let's dive in. Patty, what inspired you to step into the world of marketing and media in the first place? And was there a moment when you realized that visibility wasn't optional, it was essential?
Oh, absolutely. So there are like two major things. One was when I was very young. My nickname growing up was Chatty Patty. So that was kind of like my nickname. And my parents used to joke that they would give me $5 if I could be quiet for 30 minutes. And I never once got the $5. But I think that even then I knew that I had something to say and I didn't want to be quiet, right? Because I realized that at the very beginning, that was my relationship with voice and influence. But around that same time, I also really realized that what I had to say, but how I said it, influenced all the things growing up too. Even when it was my parents, teachers, it didn't matter. But as I grew up and then got into marketing, I saw that many, many brilliant, heart centered women were doing meaningful work, right? But they were invisible,
Yeah.
not because they weren't talented or working hard, but mostly because they just weren't seen in a way that felt authentic. And so that became my mission. So today, everything I build is about helping women create what I call a lifestyle by design business, one that brings them joy, feeds their soul, and allows their voice to truly matter. Because, Frankie, I really believe that real influence isn't about just being loud. It's about being aligned, visible, and trusted. And I think that is just so important. And people just don't really think about that.
Emer says that is some skill. And you're right, Emer. So, who influenced you most on your journey? And did she shape the leader that you've become? And maybe what lessons did you carry forward into your work today, if at all?
So, one of the most meaningful moments in my whole life was that I was honored as the business strategist of the year, the international business strategist during the 100-year anniversary celebration of International Women's Day, right? That was really big. But what moved me the most wasn't the award itself. It wasn't even walking across the stage with Oprah Winfrey, who also won the award for
Wow.
philanthropy. It was learning that Princess Diana had once received that same honor in her time
Oh, wow.
for philanthropy. And that moment really shifted something inside me, because I think at that moment I realized that you don't have to be famous to influence the world. You simply have to be brave enough to use your voice and speak your truth. And I think that realization became a guiding light for my work, helping women to understand that their voice matters more than they think and to be brave enough to use it.
Wow, I really love that. Hey, Patty, lovely to see you on the Voices of Influence stage. Thank you, Clara. Okay. Oh, Carla, hi. So, you work with women who want more than attention, they want aligned success. What transformation do you create for the people that you serve? And can you share a story of a client who maybe went from invisible to truly,
Unstoppable.
yeah, truly unstoppable, being seen, thriving?
Okay, so one of the ones that comes to mind is I'll never forget a woman who came to me who really felt completely invisible in her business because she was brilliant, she was experienced, and she was really deeply passionate about the work she did. But she felt overlooked and discouraged, which blew me away, right? But instead of working on marketing tactics, which is what people would naturally think that I would do, we worked on her voice, visibility, and proximity, getting
Okay.
her into the right rooms, telling the right stories, and building the right relationships. And within months, I have to tell you, Frankie, everything changed. She began attracting her right clients. She was receiving speaking invitations and stepping into leadership. But the real transformation wasn't the revenue, it was her confidence. Because she told me, Patty, for the first time, I feel like people truly see me and that I have something worthwhile to say. And at that moment, I could almost cry.
You're like a
That's
fairy
why I do this
godmother.
work.
And
right?
isn't that right though? Confidence is everything. If you got confidence, you can work the room, man.
And I think it's being in the right rooms, right? And really being brave enough to use your voice. I think a lot of times we don't realize the power that our voice really has. I have to tell you, Frankie, I remember that once I grew up, my mom had passed away, the one who wanted to give me $5. And I remember driving home one day when I was on my first TV show. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh. And I picked up my phone to call my mom, right? And I thought, oh, I guess I can't really do that. But I remember in that moment thinking, you know, Mom, if you could see me now, somebody's actually paying me to come.
Yeah. More than $5.
And more than $5.
Thank you all for your comments. I'm sorry, Susan. Yes, be brave, be courageous. Dr. Lisa, courage makes us brave enough to speak our truth, share our stories, and shape the narratives that define us. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you all for coming and contributing your thoughts to this conversation. It's awesome. Oh, Lisa, proximity is often overlooked when we talk about speaking up and out. Voice and visibility matter, but proximity to power is what turns expression into impact. Wow, very powerful. So you've made a career around relationships and collaboration and contribution. What would you say is your superpower as a strategist, a connector, and the secret sauce to your success?
I'm going to say that my superpower is creating the right rooms, because I help women step into the spaces where their brilliance is recognized, their voice is valued, and their influence expands naturally. Because I actually really think that proximity changes everything. Because when you're in the right conversations with the right people and you're sharing that right story, visibility stops feeling hard and starts feeling inevitable. And that's the work that feeds my soul the most, helping women be seen in a way that still feels deeply human. And I think that's really important now, right? We live in a world of AI where everything can be so polished and sound so good and stuff like that. But really, we need to be able to speak from our heart and realize that, a lot of times people will say, oh, are you B2B, business to business? Are you B2C? I'm like, no, I'm P2P, people to people, because I don't care. I always want to say, well, look to your right and look to your left. Are you talking to a person or a B or a C? Right? I'm talking to people. And so proximity really changes everything. So I really want to be in those right rooms with people who are changing the narrative, because I think that there was a time where we all just wanted to be surrounded by like-minded people just like us, who thought like us. But I think nowadays that is not true. I want to be in a room with heart-centered, diverse-minded women who are helping us to change the narrative, who are the catalysts for change, who will help me to shift or see a different perspective. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So I feel like it isn't about being in rooms with people who look, sound, and act and think like us. It's really about being in this beautiful, diverse world we have, where if all women had a voice and they used their voice, how could we really change the world if we actually used our voice, but also actively listened to others that are using theirs?
So you like to be in a room, like physically in the room with people, eyeball to eyeball, but tech is driving us everywhere. How important is it to your business, would you say?
I'd say it's everything. And I don't always have to be in that same eyeball to eyeball, although I do love that best, of course. But I think it even can be virtually too. We live in a virtual world now. And I mean, right now I have 121 clients in a global mastermind that I meet with at 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday morning, that are all in Europe and across the world. So really, honestly, I think that is what is so exciting right now, that proximity, sometimes proximity, the power is in the voice, because proximity could be in a room collectively, however that looks. I think that's what's super exciting. And every single day that I wake up every day, just being excited about who am I going to get to see today, hear today, learn today, right?
Hands up, who wants to be in that mastermind group? Everybody listening. Is there space for people? Dr. Lisa, we communicate best. We communicate by listening. When power becomes people to people, listening is what turns proximity into trust. Trust isn't always easy to trust people. How do you trust people? Is it through intuition? Is it what makes you want to trust somebody? I'm just curious.
I think for me, I innately trust people in the beginning, right? I give them the benefit of the doubt before they prove me wrong. But I feel like I have always said that relationships are the currency in the business environment that we are in right now. But actually, I think that is followed so closely by trust. And it isn't enough to be an expert. Like, to be totally honest, frankly, everybody should be an expert at what they do. But are you an authority about what you do? And more importantly, are you a trusted authority? Again, going back to AI, and I'm an AI consultant too, so I get it. But there is a time where really you couldn't believe everything you heard. And now really you can't always believe everything you even see.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be a trusted authority so that people can trust you. And when they trust you, that kind of opens the door to even a closer proximity, really. And the conversation changes and it's a much more dynamic change. So you get through all the other stuff and get to the conversations that matter.
Riri, I saw you post up there a moment ago that she is amazing. Patty truly is amazing. I'm always transformed. I love talking to her all the time. It's so great. You did allude to this a few questions ago, but I want to ask it again, just so it's out there. How important is it to amplify women's voices right now?
I think it's probably the most important in a time right now that matters more than any other time. I think this is our time. And that is so exciting. It is our time to amplify women's voice. And I think in everything, in our communities, in our life, and in our businesses, not just our businesses, but really in our life in general, I think it is really about expanding everything, like not just expanding their voices, but expanding those rooms where people are seen, heard, and valued. That's what I think is really important too, is that value, right? And I think that is so important. Like I get so excited about, like, sometimes people say that they want to listen, but here's the question I always want to say. Are you listening to really hear what they have to say? Or are you just listening until they take a pause so you can talk, right? So are you actively listening, right? And is it because you want to be a catalyst for change? For me, I want to be a catalyst of change, which means that I want to listen in a way that if someone says something, I can go, oh my gosh, that is like amazing. And I want to support that, right? Because I really think that is about being of service, right? And that is where contribution starts.
I want to acknowledge the women from the G Women Collective that are here today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us live. Carla Watt, what a difference you make. She surely does. She really does, Carla. She's absolutely incredible.
I can't wait to have that conversation with Carla next week.
I can't wait for you two to meet. I could just see the smoke rising out of the two of you. It's so great. Patty, you host high-end events. What happens when the right women gather in the right room together? What is the magic that happens there?
Like everything expands, right? Like not just like when people, like we feed off each other, right? When you're in the room with people that have heart, that they really want to make a difference, not just a dollar, right? I mean, whether you're in a nonprofit or a for-profit business, when you get to the point where all your decisions aren't about money, right? Like my decisions are not about money. It's about making a difference, not a dollar. I'm in a for-profit business, but it really matters to me because I have 6 daughters and I care about what the world's going to be like for them and for my grandchildren, right? And so I feel like collectively, if you take women's voices and then collectively together, oh my gosh, how powerful is that? And that's how change really happens, right? When collectively we all come together.
Yes. And, I just want to go back because you said you want to be in a room with women who don't think like you, but at the same time, we kind of have to be in a room with women who do think like us if we want to have a common voice and that voice going in the same direction to make change.
That's true. And that's where the right room happens, I think, right? Because you want to have a safe space, right? There has to be a safe space, but within that safe space, there does have to be boundaries and some rules of engagement, right? Otherwise people would just go off the walls, right? So I feel like when you create the right room, which is what I'm all about, is creating that room. And, there's a saying that basically says, if you can't find what you're looking for, create it. Right.
Yes.
And that has been the story of my life. I think for a long time, I would try to manifest it. I'm a manifester, but in human design, I am a generator, a manifested generator. And so I feel like for me, I would manifest. And then I guess because patience is definitely not my virtue, I said, well, it's great that I'm trying to manifest it, but I don't want to wait. I'd rather just create it. Right. Once I see the change that I want to help make in the world, it's like, okay, what's the change I want to help make in the world? I want to use my voice. What room can I create? Right? What room can I create to put the right women in the room that we actually do something about it instead of just talk about it, right? Because that's really where the power is, not just talking about it, but what collectively can we do to make the change? So I think that is what is important, really, is to create those rooms. So I always want to say, if you're aware of what those things are for you, then you can create that room. And whether there's 4 people in that room or 400 people in that room, right? The number doesn't matter.
Yeah. I know what's really special about
mission.
you. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say what's really special about you is you always come into a room going, how can I serve? Who needs what? And I really love that about you.
Thank you.
If you met a woman who's ready for a bigger room, she wants a bigger room, she wants bigger impact, bigger revenue, but she's not doing it, what mindset change does she need to make?
Well, actually, I think before she makes the mindset change, she has to know what she wants, right? You have to really be aware of what you want. And just to be clear, I have seen people that say they want to be in certain rooms just because they think people are more powerful in that room. There's more money in the room. That's not necessarily it. Sounds good, right? And while sometimes it does take money to make change, right? To fund that change sometimes. So that can sometimes be good, but it can't be the most important thing, right? Okay. And so I really feel like this is the number one thing that I work with when somebody hires me, right? Is really like, let's find the rooms that you need to be in for what you believe in. Like, what do you believe to be true? What's the change you want to make? Right. And within whatever they do, whether it's in their personal life, whether it's a mission, a movement, or their business, right? What is that? And then if we can combine those things and then put them in the right rooms or create it, if it doesn't already exist, and then that will really expand, right? It will expand because you don't have to do it all yourself, right? And I think a lot of times we think we do, but we don't.
This is Patty Farmer. Thank you so much, Patty, for being my guest today on Women Voices of Influence. A woman with a voice influences her world. A woman with a platform changes it. This is a G Woman Media Voices of Influence series. Thank you so much. Take care.